I'm your host, Mike Alvarez. This week on Episode 5, we'll be taking a well-deserved break from talking about Mass Effect 3 and cover Diablo 3. Blizzard's long-awaited sequel to Diablo 2 is 12 years in the making, and open to its own round of controversy with launch day issues and a new form of DRM. The game, however, is still fun and takes a lot of the good stuff from the previous Diablo games and adds a new level of polish to the gameplay. With me today to discuss Diablo 3 are Joseph.
Hey.
And Cory.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Alrighty. Let's hop first into the quick bit of HTL community news. Right now, from what I understand, it's just the 4RLI initiatives that are still going on. And if I'm not mistaken, they're trying to get things out. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's this week and possibly into next week. And those should be wrapping up here soon. Other than that, Joseph, I believe you've got something you want to promote as well?
Yes. The editorial team is trying to create discussions for the people. Right now, I started one for MMOs. The thread is MMOs open discussion under Gaming Talk. If you have any experience at all with MMOs or any opinions about it, just feel free to pitch in your 2 cents.
Okay, awesome. And Cory?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about a thread that I came up with a couple other people. It's about putting together community tournaments between all HTL members. So if you want to head to the thread, community tournament idea, we'd love to have you vote. And feel free to put in whatever input you have.
Okay, great. And I'll make sure I have links to these in the podcast as well. So folks watching on YouTube will be able to click directly and head to those pages. All right, well, let's get straight into this Diablo 3 discussion. First, a quick bit of intro to the game. Diablo 3 basically picks up 20 years after the events of Diablo 2. There's a little bit of retconning in the story, but for the most part, it's fine. And yeah, it's been 12 years, and since Diablo 2 came out, although the expansion came out a couple years after that. My first question to you guys is, was it worth the wait?
In my opinion, yes.
All right.
I have to agree. It was definitely worth the wait.
All right. I definitely feel like it's a great game. A part of me kind of wonders if it really took 12 years to make this, but yeah, no, I mean it's definitely a great game. So a few issues which we'll be discussing in a moment, but it's definitely got a great feel to it. Before we get too wrapped up into this, just real quickly, if you guys want to explain or let me know which was your first or primary class that you played, Joseph.
I actually started with my wizard up till Act 4 in normal. Then I got tired of it, of having to run all over the place just to survive and end up pulling more stuff as I went trying to survive. So I went and played a monk.
Oh, all right.
My monk's level 60 now.
so the monk is your primary class?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Now it is.
Alrighty. And Cory?
Barbarian all the way. That's the one I started with, and that's the one I've been playing basically the whole time. I think mine's like level 42 or 43. Second act of Nightmare. It's a lot of fun, and I just love it.
Nice. Yeah, my main character's also been my my barbarian, which I named after a D&D barbarian I've had for years going. Yeah, I just finished the normal campaign, and I'm ready to hop into Nightmare with him. So he's definitely a fun class to play around with. Now, did both of you guys get the game at launch or pre-order?
Yes, I pre-ordered.
I actually had the Blizzard annual pass, so I got it somewhat for free. So I got free access to it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then you guys are probably more experienced at this than I am. I got the game like day of launch, but I didn't get a chance to install it until like 3 or 4 days later because I was just busy with work and with HTL stuff. So I didn't get around to playing it right away, which is lucky for me because really I guess the first couple of days were you were lucky if you can log in and actually play. Diablo 3 opened to some launch day server issues with folks being unable to log in as their servers were absolutely jam-packed. I'm assuming you guys also experienced this?
Oh, yeah.
Well, definitely. I had to wait like 2 hours after to be actually able to log on, which isn't really that surprising. And it's a launch date release.
Right. I know, and this was certainly because when I was able to get in, I did experience a couple, like I think there was only 1 or 2 times. I mean, I was also logging in for the first time, like peak hours. Like I said, this was only like 3 or 4 days into it, and I experienced, it took me about 10, 15 minutes before I was able to get in my very first time. And I can definitely see why many fans and players out there were frustrated with it, especially if they weren't jumping in to do the multiplayer portion. You know, it's like, you know, they bought a game, they just want to play, they just want to kind of futz around with the class and figure things out, and they can't log in. I can definitely see why that was aggravating to a lot of folks, but I guess them's the breaks right now. The other like kind of big issue that I still get from time to time is lag, which is kind of annoying. Now granted, I mean, I do play on wireless, so I know it can be on my end more so than it is on Blizzard's end and with their servers. But once again, I'm playing solo, so to have lag, I'm not worrying about anybody else's, kind of annoying. Have you guys experienced any lag issues as well?
I haven't really had, that big of a problem with lag. I mean, yeah, just not a lot of problem with lag. I had trouble the first day getting onto the servers, but after that, not a problem.
Huh.
I've had a couple of hiccups every so often. Actually, the last issue I had with my goblin treasure, whatever that giggling goblin is, it escaped because there was like a hiccup of lag while I was trying to kill it. So it portaled.
Yeah.
It was almost there.
Yeah. The first time I ran into one of those, it got away, but I was trying to figure out, like, what in the world's going on? What is this thing that keeps just dropping all this gold? And then, you get that little new lore button that shows up in the bottom right-hand corner, and after it disappears, you click on it, and it explains that you got to get them before they disappeared. I'm like, that would have been really useful news about 2 minutes ago.
Thanks for nothing, Kane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, thanks, Kane.
Oh, wait, the other guy. It's not Kane.
That's right. No, it isn't. It's the other treasure hunter guy or the history guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, minor issues. I actually died once because of lag. Granted, I was knee deep in combat, and I was already about like half health, and then all of a sudden I experienced just like a 3-second lag. It was just the shortest amount of time. But then all of a sudden I've got a sliver of life, and then I'm dead. I'm like, wait, no.
I wish I could blame all my dying on lag, but sadly I can't.
Well, I've only died a few times, and the few other times that I died were mostly because, okay, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like, it's like, yeah, there were about 40 guys there. I probably should not have just jumped right in.
Yeah.
But like, this was one of the times where it wasn't 40 guys. It was like, like two or three blue guys, and then like a half dozen or so other guys, and then all of a sudden it just went lagged and I died. And it's just a bummer, like I said, mostly because when you're playing single player, to die because of lag is kind of like a real kick in the junk. But
yeah.
It's a minor nuisance. It doesn't really happen that often, but when it does, it's memorable. But now the main issue, the reasons why they have us playing online is because of this this new form of, it's partially digital rights management. The other part is to prevent hacking and cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I played Diablo 2, I rarely played online, and I wasn't into that whole trade thing that was going on, with folks selling items that they were able to get in their games and then sharing it with other folks in other games. And I know that kind of created its own marketplace off-site or outside of the game. And I can see why Blizzard kind of wanted to wrap that up and make sure that, number one, folks weren't being cheated out of their own money and so on. But at the same time, folks were duping items and able to hack their way into the game and cheat, and then selling those items and making, real money off of it. Now, did you guys ever experience any of that in like Diablo 2?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. I remember there was the longest period of time where there was this trick where somebody would open up a trade with you, and they would put the item in there for you to trade, and you go to accept it. But while you're doing that, there was some trick where they could remove the item and then do the trade and keep their item and take yours. And then a lot of the duplicate items, if after you traded, got them and left the game, they would disappear.
Oh.
So it was very disheartening to try and trade with people online on Diablo 2.
Huh.
I actually really didn't know that there was an economy ongoing. I was just basically doing Diablo 2 for LAN, and we didn't really trade items that much in our group.
A very big economy for Diablo 2 between third-party sites that would hire people to find gear, and then they sell them. And then there are all sorts of forums where they'd set up a system where basically you would trade items to people for forum gold, and then you use that forum gold to buy more items from people. So they set up their own monetary system there as well.
Yeah. And I was aware of that on the periphery, and I can totally see why they did, why they implemented an auction house system, and why they kind of wanted to, wrap things up and make the game more secure. And in the end, that's a bonus to the player. It really is. And it just, for me, the balance of keeping things always online and having things offline. It would have been nice to be able to still play the game offline without having to worry about online stuff. And then if you want to, copy your character and take him to online play, you could. Now, obviously, that presents a different issue of if you're hacking your own game and giving yourself all such great items and so on, and then taking that character into online play. I can see why that would be an issue. So they decided just to go ahead and go completely online. So it's minor. In the end, it ends up being a minor nuisance, but it's certainly it's just an interesting balance that kind of needs to be struck. And I don't think Blizzard quite got it perfect. I still think they have some work to do, and maybe Diablo 4 or whatever other game comes out, it will fix it or at least improve the experience on the player end. Now, have you guys been using the auction house?
Yes.
No, I have not used the auction house yet.
Yeah.
Yes, you actually, because the difficulty from normal to nightmare, really, you can actually just squeeze through it using the gear you find, or when you play with others, you can trade with them.
Right.
Or from crafting.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as you reach in Hell and Inferno, there are certain gear tiers that you have to meet.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, you're just bashing your head in front of your desk because you keep dying.
Oh wow. Okay. I haven't quite experienced that yet. I'm definitely at a point where I know when it comes to gameplay, I granted, just going through normal and what little I've touched of Nightmare, I mean, my gear has been pretty much fine. I was doing crafting for a while. I've got like my blacksmith. He's like making master items and so on. But it's definitely a very expensive system if you want to go crafting, because it's a lot of your own gold to train the blacksmith, and then you're basically disenchanting every blue and gold item you get in hopes of getting the crafting materials so that maybe you can get a new pair of boots that do what you want them to do. Because
that's the fun thing. If you crafted something that wasn't really meant for you, you can always just sell it
on the auction house. Exactly.
Unfortunately, the auction house is still trying to build itself currently because everything's either overpriced or way underpriced. So it'll take a couple of weeks, I guess, more to have it balance itself off.
Right, and that introduces yet another issue, because it's just been, I think now for a week or so, that they introduced the real money auction house. The ability to now, I haven't experienced it myself. I don't know if you've dealt with the real money part, but it sounds as though you're able to sell items for either real cash or at least its equivalent in some sort of exchange rate for gold.
You basically will end up having like an account with Blizzard
Uh-huh.
by creating real money auctions. So eventually you probably can sell stuff, but with its current implementation, it's out of whack because everyone's charging an arm and a leg for items that aren't really well optimized.
Uh-huh.
So I'll give it a couple more weeks and probably gonna look through it if it's stabilized before I even try to do any selling.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know when I've tried to search through for items on the auction house, it's way over. You really have to know what you're looking for, and it looks like there's plenty of customization within the auction house of being able to search for, wearable, boots that are going to give you crit rate or attack speed or whatever. And
very picky.
yeah,
It's very well customized, but it's not as user friendly as one would like.
no, it isn't. It still seems a little clunky to me. That's why I ended up staying away from it. And then of course the fact that everything is like 5 million gold, I was just like, yeah, I'm never gonna get there. So
Have you noticed though in the auction house there's like maximum buyout? That's the best part of it because you can set the price that you're willing to shell out, and
Yeah.
you can see it's like, ooh, I want this, and
Yeah.
it's only this much.
yeah. Yeah. The maximum buy up thing is certainly useful. And then not only that, there's also a great portion to it too that if you're a seller, you can only sell. I think it's only like 10 or 15 items, right?
Yeah, 10 items at the maximum.
Yeah, and that I think is great. So it prevents folks from, spamming it too much and so on. I also can't wait till folks are able to kind of close out their prevent themselves from putting up like gray and white items, because I remember doing some searches and all of a sudden finding like a bunch of gray and white items up there. I'm like, what is this?
Well, the white items, I think they just put it there because of the armor value. I don't really understand why you would want to waste your 10 slots for white items because they're not gonna sell.
Right. Well, see, I mean, I do wonder if these are just folks looking for suckers. It's kind of like, hey, look, this armor's got plus 100. Like, hey, isn't that great? Like, it's a fine suit or whatever. So, yeah.
It's possible.
Probably, yeah. All right, well, let's get into the actual gameplay itself. Now that we've kind of go, because really that the controversial stuff has really always just been the online play and the DRM stuff, and a little bit about the auction house. But getting to the actual game itself, the story is fairly brief. I mean, I plowed through normal in about 25, 26 hours, which strikes me as short because I'm pretty sure I spent easily 40 hours in Diablo 2 just on normal trying to get through with my Amazon.
That's impressive because I think I beat normal in like 14 hours, maybe 15, and I was playing with other people. So, yeah, the story was pretty brief, though I thought it was pretty intense.
Oh, it was. It seemed really short to me.
Yes.
And it almost
is actually comparatively because before in Diablo 2, I think there were the story actually indeed felt longer because could you skip through most of the talk during Diablo 2? I don't remember if you could.
I think you could skip through some of the stuff. I can't quite recall. It's been a while since I played Diablo 2.
Yeah. Most of it you can just move through while they're talking and they'll still finish. But with Diablo 3, you can just press space and they'll move on.
Right. Well, and I will say this: the voice acting in Diablo 3 is much better. I mean, we get some, we get Deckard Cain back, or and so it's from familiar voice and so on, and we get to come across Tyrael and so again. So once again we have the same voice actors come back reprising some old roles. Also, your character has more of a voice in the game. And I know that the conversation, it only changes slightly just based on your class and your gender. Because if I'm not mistaken, the scoundrel companion will hit on your female character, and so on.
He does, because he's kind of intimidated of my monk.
Well, see now, right.
Depends. I mean, he was hitting on my sorceress.
Right.
So it might be because yours is a monk.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe he's afraid she might pummel him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's definitely, I mean, the new companion character. I know with my barbarian, I mean, obviously you get the Templar first, and he's actually got a pretty interesting story, interesting enough to the point where I was just like, where's the rest of this guy's story? Like, I kind of want to go after this guy's Templar order.
Actually, I was like waiting for like a prompt to go to their like base and slaughter them over there,
right? Because it's like it's actually a really interesting story, and one that I hope they follow up in some way. It seemed really interesting.
Grounds for expansion.
Right. Well, exactly. And then of course there's a scoundrel who is a pretty funny character. He's got some great stuff, and he's actually a great backup character because he's pretty much pure DPS. So I imagine, I'm not sure which class he combines best with. I know for the Barbarian, I used him for, I want to say, most of Act 1, and then well into Act 2 up until I got the Sorceress. And then I used the Sorceress basically the whole time because she's got a few control-like spells and able to just like slow down a few enemies and so on.
Yeah. She's the crowd control and buffer companion.
Yeah, oh yeah, especially when you get to, I think, near level, like late 20s into the early 30s, she's got the ability to buff your armor, which is definitely what I went with my Barbarian, and then she was, was with me straight till the end.
Yeah, at I think level 45, I think, or 35, I think, is when she gives you the ability to buff your attack speed by 3%, which is a very powerful buff, which only works when she's alive.
Yes.
The armor buff, even if she's dead, is always in effect.
Right, because that's an actual spell that she casts, if not mistaken. Yes, but the speed buff is like an aura. You get it at level 30, and it's when you're within 40 yards of her and so on. So yeah, I really liked her, and she's another one too that she's got that whole thing with the prophet. And you're kind of like, well, who's this prophet? Where is this guy? Like, where are the rest of her sisters?
You know what? I have a theory on who the prophet is because I was looking up the information yesterday. They said that the prophet might. I'm thinking the prophet might be the angel Isual.
Yeah, the angel of wisdom or the original angel of wisdom that left.
No, the one that created Sanctuary.
Oh, okay.
The
fallen
who stole
one.
The world's stone.
Wow, I actually completely forgot about that. But yeah, no.
Wait, it's not Isuald. It's the angel Inarius, rather.
Oh, okay.
Isuald is someone else.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, that's a minor bit of confusion, but yes. Okay. So, but no. See, I was actually thinking that it was the original angel of wisdom, the one who was searching for something, and I figured he probably came across some lore and then decided to train the sorceresses. What's the plural of sorceress? Sorceresses.
Magic users.
Yeah, exactly. He decided to train a group of magic users, all female, which is great. This guy sounds like Gaddafi. And he's got them, and there's a great little bit of story with her because it's like she finds some of her sisters and she finds they've been slain. I believe she didn't find all of them, so she's still kind of like looking for the other ones and whatever. And then of course with the Barbarian, I kind of got that she was kind of sweet on the Barbarian in some sort of way, but that never develops. Yeah, I imagine it's the same thing if you're any male character, and the same thing with the Scoundrel and a female character. So
actually, when you talk to her as a female character, she comments on the Templars' weird attitude in Act 1 when it comes. And my monk deadpans, he's in love with you, and she's like, "What?"
Nice. So yeah, that's actually one of the things that I kind of felt like was missing from the game, is adding a little bit more of the RPG elements. It seemed like they were there, like they were really close to doing it, you know. And I'm not saying do some sort of like Mass Effect dialogue wheel with, you know, crazy interactions and so on, but I think they could have definitely just in general just added a few more RPG things, whether it be with companion characters or even just some of the side characters. Speak. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The choices don't have to be like a dialogue wheel in Mass Effect, or it can just be a simple A or B. Or if you spend enough time with this certain character, something develops there, and after like a certain trigger event, if you stop taking them with you, then that stops, or you keep having them with you, it could develop further in the relationship, things like that.
Right, and I don't even just mean in the sense of relationship. I just mean, you know, adding side quests and or just different goals. You know, I know for the longest time I had my sorceress running around with this great mace because it had like plus 40 intelligence that I ended up finding. And so she became like a real killer with that, but it wasn't until I gave her like, you know, a staff. But I mean, it'd be great to have like a mission to like get her a new staff or a specific staff that she's seeking out, kind of thing.
Weapon specifically for the companions.
Right, exactly. And well, they also have that slot for their specific class. Right. Their relics and artifacts. Because like the sorceress uses like a focus. The scoundrel, I kept finding gambling dice, but I'm assuming there's other things.
I had like a rare dagger from him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the Templar has these relics or artifacts that he could use. Yeah.
Books.
Yeah. And so like all that, like you know that's the kind of stuff that you can definitely make quests and expand on. And it seemed like they were there. Or it seemed like it would be so easy to fit into the game. So hopefully they'll expand on that in expansion packs and updates to the game, because it looks like it's so easy to implement, and they just need to flick whatever little switch and put it into the game, you know?
Yeah, it certainly feels like they laid the groundwork for it. Like some of the main quests that you do, there were side parts to it, like rescuing a certain number of people from cages, or you know, at the beginning where you have to kill the 3 wretched mothers or whatever to get the bonus, you know. So
right.
They can easily implement that into it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, which kind of feeds into my whole thing that the game didn't quite feel long enough. Like it felt like it was just a little bit lacking, but it may just be me. One of the... Go ahead.
Not just you, really. It felt short.
It did.
I was like, when I finished it, I was like, that's it?
Exactly. Like the story... up until the very end was extremely engrossing. I mean, there were some things that happened in the story, and I won't go into that because I don't know who's played or whatnot.
Right.
There were some plot twists in there or changes in certain characters from previous games where it's just like, wow, did that really happen?
Yeah.
And then you get to the end, and it's just like, okay, this seems like they're setting it up for an expansion. They just stopped right there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious they set it up for an expansion. Although when it came to the actual major plot points, I kind of I knew who was going to betray and who was going to twist things around, and you know where Diablo it wasn't a complete twist. I mean, I do like the way they handled it. Like I said, I think the dialogue itself went out well. And like you know the voice acting was well done. One of my favorite side characters is Covetous Shen, the gem maker.
Oh yeah, he's funny. He actually has an achievement when you break him out. If you wait for him to finish everything he has to say before you break him out, and it's actually pretty funny trying to get it.
Oh really?
Yeah, he has like a set number of dialogue for while he's waiting for you to open it. It's just like he says, I think one of them is like, if you're out there, I'm still stuck in here.
Yeah. I played with another HTLer. We have this thing going, and I think you know what I'm talking about, Joseph, where we smash everything in the game, everything. We check every room, make sure we destroy everything. When we saw that moving barrel with him in it, we were like, oh crap, we totally need to smash this. And then he comes out, and it's just like, no, why?
Actually, you know what? I was like thinking when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, it's the Revenge of the Barrels.
Yeah.
It's the barrel boss.
You know, that would have been an epic secret level instead of like the cow level in the second game.
My Little Pony level.
Well, there is the secret level, which is like the super bright colored, like go kill a bunch of like teddy bears and
Teddy bears and My Little Pony.
And
Yeah.
My Little Ponies. Which apparently in this game, which apparently in this game is actually really hard to get to. Whereas in the second game, all you needed was Wert's leg and a book, and then wham, you got it.
Yeah. The Tome of Town portal and Wert's leg.
Yeah.
Oh, did you guys get the sword, the first sword, or did you keep the first sword you got from Griswold's weapon?
Oh no.
Thing?
No.
I sold it as the first chance I could. I was like, oh wait, I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, you're supposed to keep that?
No, it's like a flavor item.
Oh,
keep
okay.
Flavor items with me forever.
Oh, gotcha.
I got you. Yeah, I don't think I ever got a sword when searching Griswold's place when we first went there. Not sure I got it actually, but I'm pretty sure I sold it.
In fact, I'm pretty sure that not only did I not get, like, I ended up getting like a staff or like something I couldn't even use. For my barbarian.
I think it's a random item, but it has the name Griswold something.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember that. I might not have been paying attention. I
Right.
kind of play far away from my TV. It's hard for me to read anything, so I might have missed it.
Now, one thing, just going back to the jeweler real quick, Covetous Shen, he is voiced by James Hong, the same guy from Kung Fu Panda, who voices Poe's father. So, like, I immediately picked up on who the voice actor was, and it's got it's that same kind of, you know, funny, like a little comedic timing that he's got, and some of the stories he tells are like just absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And then I'm not going to spoil anything really because there's this whole suspicion that he may be some sort of like god of fortune, that he's not just a trickster god. Yes, exactly. And it's definitely, once again, when it comes to expansion stuff and other stuff to be able
to expand the quest line for him to there.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? In fact, I'm pretty sure you could just do a whole game based on like the quest line of him seeking out that jewel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can do a whole game just on that. You know, it could be Jewel Quest, by Blizzard, and you'd be all set. Just your character and Covetous Shen running around.
This game definitely feels like it's more set up for lots and lots of DLC, which is a reoccurring theme these days.
Yes.
Whereas with Diablo 2, I didn't feel there was really any DLC to add. I mean, yeah, they added the Lord of Destruction expansion, which brought Veil in.
Yeah.
In terms of like they didn't have side quests. They didn't have, too much interaction with characters. There wasn't that much, in my opinion anyways, connection with other characters. There really wasn't any room for too much expansion there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what what they're able to add. But let's get into the conversation on the gameplay itself. One of the things that hasn't changed is Diablo 3 is just like its previous to Diablo and Diablo 2. It's all about point, click, and loot. It's a bunch of pinata monsters running around. You bash them and you get candy. It's obviously a game style that works because it's addictive and you will just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. I know myself, like when you come across some map areas and you'll have 2 or 3 like little dungeon rooms you can go into, plus like the main dungeon you're supposed to go into. I will clear out that entire map first.
Oh yeah.
And
that's my mode of playing as well.
Exactly.
Like,
because I don't.
There might be a secret over here.
Well, it's not even there might be a secret. I mean, there might be some bat flying around. He's gonna drop some boots I need, or he's gonna drop a sword I'll need, or because it's just like it's literally every monster is just a flying pinata,
Well, if you hit level 60 from Hell onwards, it's practically like that because you get a buff at 60, which is Nephilim Valor, which increases your gold find and magic item find. So, and you only get that buff after defeating packs of elites. We'll get to the buff later when it comes to bosses, because when you have 5 stacks of it and you finish like a major boss for a storyline, you have increased chances of getting rares.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, which because of that particular buff, if you finish the game without it and keep going and trying to farm the bosses, they don't drop rares at all.
Yeah, that was the point.
Oh, really?
About to bring up is it's really important in Diablo 3 compared to say Diablo 2 to explore all the areas and go back and go and make sure you kill all of the elites and the unique enemies out there, because after you kill a boss for the first time, the drops that they give are way less quality than the first time you fight them.
Oh.
You cannot farm bosses and do runs like you would in, say, Diablo 2, which was like the staple thing. People start level 1 characters, get rushed to, Act 4 hell, and then do Diablo runs until like 70, and kept killing him for all the, green and yellow items.
Huh. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That's well, yeah. I guess that makes sense.
I'm pretty sad to hear that. Actually, I like farming bosses.
Yeah.
Beat up the butcher and what's her name?
Magda. Yes.
Yeah, that's the moth lady.
Yeah. Just to move on with the gameplay portion. Let's take a look at each of the classes. Now, two of us have obviously played the barbarian to quite the extent, at least into Nightmare. Cory, how did you play your barbarian? Well, what was your barbarian build, if you will?
Well, when I first started playing, the biggest thing that appealed to me was being able to pull groups in and stun them. So using the defensive skill like stun.
Yeah.
Or using the ancient spear kill, where if somebody is like a unique is running away from me, pull them back over to me scorpion style.
Right.
Or I'm always a fan of shouting, and there's a couple different shouts that you can do there. Currently, I'm using the one that boosts your defense, but there's one that you shout just for yourself that improves your damage, and then there's another one that reduces
enemies' damage,
the armor of enemies around you, which was pretty handy the first playthrough that I did. But right now, I have to say my barb is more of a jump in the fray kind of action. I use the leap skill to kind of jump in there. I shout. I charge it there to stun people. And I use the whirlwind skill so I can just kind of rotate around everybody. And then I use frenzy as my left click skill. Where I start swinging really fast. And that's just how I run my character.
Nice. See, now it's interesting because I actually I play a dual wield barbarian, but I don't use frenzy. I use bash with the clobber rune, so I'm constantly stunning enemies. But since I attack so fast with 2 weapons, I basically stun lock enemies all the time. And then if I'm in a group, I use that stomp skill so that I got the wide area stomp skill, so the one that pulls in enemies for like 24 yards away and then stuns them.
Yeah, I switched to leap because there's a rune that you get towards the end. I think it's like the 6th rune that you get where it pulls them in and stuns them.
Right.
So I thought it would be cool. Like, I can jump up floors, or I can jump across the room. Like if I'm playing with somebody that's not a tank, I can jump into the fray and save them before they get killed by the mob, or something like that.
Right. Well, I guess that's just a matter of multiplayer, because I did use leap for a little bit, but I just don't use it now. Like I took it off my skill bar. The other one I like to use is revenge, which is a great way to get health back. And then outside of revenge, earthquake, which to me is just like that is just like the greatest ability, because like I said, I love pulling in enemies to me. And then I just use Earthquake, and they all die within a couple seconds. So
yeah, I like Earthquake. I used it for a while, but I switched to Call of the Ancients because I find with big groups, when you can't always, pull them in, or particularly with bosses, they help out a ton. They really, really do. When you see the 3 of them just whirlwinding around or jumping in and smashing everything, it's it's a good sight when
Huh.
you think you're dying.
Yeah, no, I bet. And actually, that's well, we'll move on with the rest of the classes, but we'll get into further stuff on skills. The Demon Hunter. Now, this is a class that I've only played up to like level 12, but already I can tell like this is the pure damage dealer. I saved items from my barbarian playthrough and just kind of kept them in my little chest and passed them on to her. And so I've got her kind of twinked out at level 12. But I mean, I think there was one mission I did where I killed the guy before he finished his first line of dialogue with her, and she's got that great like rapid fire ability, which basically turns her crossbows into like Gatling guns, and it's just phenomenal.
You have the Withering Fire rune for that, don't you?
No, I don't even think I have any runes. I'm literally at level 12, so I have like no runes unlocked for it. I don't
You
think.
should have you should unlock it at level 12, I think.
Oh, okay, well then maybe I do, or if I did, I just got it, so I haven't
Mhm.
quite tried it out yet. But it's definitely like that is my. I mean, she will kill anything. It's like, and I haven't had to deal too much with enemies getting up close beyond like the first couple of levels. But she's got that great little Caltrops ability, which she can, slow enemies that come towards her and so on. You can definitely you can see where she's a kind of a fun character. You can set up her kite path.
Yeah.
She seems to have like a nice couple of traps and skills to be able to shift around. The one thing I don't like with her is, and maybe it's just a matter of me kind of setting up my key bindings, because shift is just too far away from my number slots to be able to have her to stand still and shoot. Because I'm just inaccurate. There's nothing worse than clicking at an enemy, but then all of a sudden the enemy moves. Next thing you know, you click at the ground, and then your demon hunter's running towards that area. You're like, no,
Yeah,
don't
no.
get closer.
Yeah.
Stay right where you are. But yeah.
From what I've played with the Demon Hunter, which isn't that much compared to the other ones, it's a more strategic way of putting combat, because you can plot out tactics on how you engage your enemy with the Demon Hunters as compared to a barbarian or a monk who just goes in and slaughters everything.
Right. Now, go ahead, Corey.
Got to make sure you have a wide berth and a long hall to run back in while you're fighting.
Yeah, I haven't quite come across the need for that just yet. Like I said, because I tend to kill everything in like 2 or 3 shots.
Yeah.
So, and then she's running around with the Templar right now, which just seems like that's like the perfect combo for the Demon Hunter is having that meat shield out in front.
Yeah, definitely.
And
it would be nice though that when you have the Templar, that they would just focus on him, but they don't.
Well, he's got that taunt ability. It
only activates when your health is low, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the real kicker about it.
If it was like an aura that basically just makes them focus on him, it would have been better. But
right.
Only an emergency thing.
Gotcha. Huh? That's
He's basically I'll hope that I can heal you and protect you if you're about to die kind of character.
Right. Right. So yeah, he's not meant to necessarily be your actual tank.
Yeah. I wish he was.
Would
have made leveling the wizard so much easier.
Well, let's move on to a class that you're pretty familiar with. How about the monk? I've got a friend of mine who's she's played the monk quite a bit, and she's certainly enjoyed the monk. But I'd like to hear your take on it.
Well, the monk is pretty fun since its primary statistic for damage is dexterity, which also increases dodge by a somewhat small percentage. It's really interesting on how you play it. And there's like so many different ways of doing the monk, because you can go either tanking, you can go full DPS with dual wielding, or you can go with the healing monk, which is actually what I'm using right now, because that's the only way you can survive long enough. Yeah, because the healing monk, you prioritize in keeping yourself up than just dealing and shrugging off the damage because of the resistance, the mitigation. It's basically the tank monk.
Right.
But I did level my monk for like the damage dealing monk from normal to Act 2 of Hell.
Oh, wow.
After that, I bashed my head and no, it's not working. Tanking monk it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my abilities, which you can customize if you fiddle with your UI after all, that you can have like what you thought you can only have one type of skills at a time. I have my healing ability, then I have my immunity ability bound. I have my mantra that gives increased resistance up. Then I have the slowing basic attack up for my regular attacks. Then I have my, I think I either switch with the kickback attack, so when I'm overwhelmed, I can just kick them away from the room, pretty much.
It's always fun to watch when I'm playing with Joseph here. He just kind of walks up and kicks everything out of the way. My brain doesn't get to do anything. Now, granted, he's like 30 levels higher than me, but it's just really fun to watch.
Well, granted, when she kicks something, they end up disintegrating.
Right.
For the mobs that we're killing. It's insane. It's fun, but it can be quite frustrating if you don't keep your gear up.
Okay.
At the level you were in at the moment.
Right, right. Now, how about the Witch Doctor? Have you guys played the Witch Doctor at all?
Little bit.
Little bit.
I have not touched the Witch Doctor.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the
Necromancer
version of the Necromancer class. Yes.
Yeah. See, I hated the Necromancer in Diablo 2, so as soon as I saw what the Witch Doctor did, I was like, nope, that's not a class I'll be playing.
Necromancer was the most annoying thing, in my opinion, to duel against. Between going out and raising things in hell to that damn bone-seeking spell that he had that would just chase you.
That's just cheesy.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the Witch Doctor has all that stuff. It's like, instead of a bone-seeking spell, it's that swarm that he can send out.
Insect swarm.
Yeah. So
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, I can certainly see folks that enjoy that style of play, and I'm sure folks that'll listen to this are, they love their Necromancer or they love their Witch Doctor, but. I immediately saw
I'm bashing on the Necromancer, but it was my class of choice.
Oh, really? Oh, the truth comes out.
It was fun. When it was an army that would fill the whole screen, but it was a dueling against them. Nah.
Right. Yeah, I for me it was just never my style of play. Like, I like to hit things, so yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and finally, if we could talk about the Wizard.
Oh yeah, Wizard. Well, you go ahead first, because you play with Perry most of the time. So, and she plays
I haven't really played the Wizard, but I got to watch the Wizard, go from like level 1 on up, and I gotta say, it's pretty awesome just watching all these spells going out there. I remember this one time, I think she had hit level 20, and she got this skill called Disintegrate, where she's like shooting this giant laser beam just everywhere, and everything just drops.
Wow.
And I'm like,
that's an awesome spell. I ruined mine for the double beam, so it was fun.
Oh yeah, I've seen
double beam decimate everything, but after you run out of arcane power, and if you're alone. Yeah.
But the arcane power regenerates really, really fast, which is one thing I noticed when I tried my character out for a little bit. So
it does. It's just that if you're in if you're alone and you have like an oh shit moment, you're kind of screwed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where you use like different skill sets. Like one thing I noticed that Perry's been doing now, she's using that. I think it's the level 6 skill, which basically throws out looks like a black hole to me, and it just blows up all the mobs. And then combine that with skills like Blizzard, Ice Beam, and Disintegrate, and then her basic melee, or her basic attack. It's insane. mean, I'm certainly looking forward to doing the wizard next. Actually,
Okay.
and just that's definitely a DPS class right there. Right there. She
Right.
dies a lot. Can't handle damage.
Glass cannon.
I'm sorry, Perry. I'm sorry, but the wizard just doesn't handle damage very well.
No, but
Well,
it sounds like it's a great class, like in a group.
They have very decent damage, like basically threat dumps, and they also still have that immunity ability, like every class I think has. Um, it's just basically watching your defensive cooldowns in conjunction of dealing as much damage possible when you're in a group.
Right.
If you're alone, it doesn't really work as well as basically pairing up with a barbarian or a monk.
Right.
Yeah, she does really well with combinations. Like I remember, like when I was talking about the first time I saw a wizard get disintegrated, what I would do is I would go and stomp in a group and bring them all together and stun them, and then she'd spray them with disintegrate. Or I remember that skill with the monk where you pull them all in, and then you have blizzard on top of that. So she's definitely a great support and massive DPS character.
Yeah, I actually use it. Blizzard plus when they're gathered together, then disintegrate. So with them snared, they can't really run away from the area of attack anymore. It's interesting.
Interesting.
It was cool that they brought back the Hydra skill.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Like
I spammed it to death when it's like, "Go Hydra, kill everything for me."
Yeah, basically. Oh man, yeah, but that, and the different things that you do it. Like I saw one that she did where it was blue, so I'm assuming. Don't quote me. I'm assuming it was doing lightning, and it's just awesome. Like your own personal turret combat those damn sentries that all those uniques keep dropping that kill you.
Nice.
Oh man, I hate those so much.
Now, we'll wrap these up here with the with the classes though. So, just real quick, what's so far? I mean, I know some of you only have limited experiences with certain classes, but what's been your favorite class so far?
Well, because I really only played the barbarian, I'm gonna have to say he's my favorite.
Right.
Watching the wizard, definitely gonna be my next character.
Uh-huh.
And the demon hunter, because she has the two different types of energy for skills.
Yeah.
The whole tactical aspect to it is also very, very intriguing to it. So
yeah,
those two are definitely my next characters.
Yeah, my favorite, of course, is the monk because it's the highest. Maybe if I get something else at higher levels, I might switch. But I'm looking at playing my wizard or my demon hunter after my monk.
Uh-huh.
The wizard, after I probably twink him out, as you said your demon hunter was earlier.
Yes.
I probably would be playing him more often. But at the moment, he's shelved.
Right.
But yeah, the demon hunter's tactical aspect is really interesting for me. So I'm very much of a control freak. So I think that's the next character I'm going to be playing.
Right. Now it's this tactical aspect that brings me to the next section, which is just a brief overview here of how the skill system works. Because the one thing that annoyed me the most when I was playing my first playthrough was I only had my right and left mouse button clicks. And then you had to slowly unlock your slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and you don't get slot 4 until like level 20.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me annoyed the hell out of me while I was playing, because I was just like, I know how to play this game. Don't handicap me. Like just give me the skills I need. Like let me use the skills I know how to use, and put them in the slots and go from there. But at the same time, I can understand that playing through normal, playing through your character from level 1 to 30 is basically the tutorial mode.
Pretty much.
This is figure out your character, figure out how you're gonna play, and so on. So I can appreciate what they're trying to do, but like I said, waiting until level 20 to get all my slots, I was definitely kind of like, come on.
It's basically like both a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a curse for the veteran players who play Diablo 2 and where you could fully customize your character. Like every character could be unique the way you built it.
Right.
Whereas Diablo 3, everybody gets all the same skills, and it's all based on your playstyle. It's more user friendly and more newcomer friendly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. My other pet peeve with the skill system was and I do like that it's no longer a skill tree. That it's, you know, you've got about 6 sections. You got 6 skill groups. You know, you've got your primary attack, you got your secondary attack, you have an offensive, a defensive, then you usually have a class specific group buff exactly, and then you have a like your final slot is like your mega attack or your big attack, your big powers. And so I can fully appreciate that. It makes it very, very easy to go through and see which skills you want to use and so on, and kind of plan your character out. Much better than the skill tree did, because the problem with the skill tree was if you misspent a point, that was it. Like, you weren't getting that point back, and you were going to forever have, you know, frost arrows. And like, well, why do I need that? Because I don't, you know.
One of the last patches that they did, that they added something in there that I don't know how easy it was to get. I had stopped playing at that point, but they added something where you could reset all your skill points.
Yeah, I remember that they released something to that effect, but I wasn't playing anymore.
Right.
So
it could get so complicated because there are so many skills that would buff other skills.
Right.
And then you would look back at those and like, oh, maybe I should try that. You start pouring points into that. It's like, no, I shouldn't have done that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
like, it's not going to pay off in the end, and so on. Yeah, that I mean, it was definitely an annoying portion, but I'm, you know, and I'm glad they went to a rune system that you can kind of switch around back and forth. Like I said, with my barbarian, I simply use bash, and then like I never switched off that clobber rune, because being able to stun, you know, 35% chance of stunning, and when you dual wield, you know, that's basically every other hit.
For crowd control.
Pardon?
That's a very high percentage for crowd control.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, every time I came across, like, you would fight, you know, those individual named gold monsters, you know, and certain, like, you know, this demon would bash through a door and you got to kill that one guy. I would have them stun locked, like, the entire time. And then for whatever reason, if my bash didn't stun them, I would just use my AoE stun, and then that would stun them, and then my bash would eventually. So it was just like, I kind of made a lot of the stuff a cakewalk, which was great. So, I mean, and it's definitely tailored to my style of play. Like, I was just like, all right, I really like this. But then there were skills that I simply never used. I never used that grappling hook power. Never used it. Never once touched it. Nothing. Throw. Never used it.
Don't like your death grip?
Nope. I didn't want to be Scorpion. I was just like, nope. And throw. My favorite was, I love that whole throw thing, the throwing axe. And I'm like, there's no throwing axes. Like, where's my throwing axe slot? I don't have a slot for throwing weapons. And so it was just like, it didn't make any sense to me. Never used it. You know.
I mean, there's a couple of things I would like to see done differently. One, I wish you could train in these skills so that you would eventually be able to use more runes. It's really hard to pick just one rune. Like, coming back to earlier when I was talking about leap, the final 2 runes are, one is where you jump and when you land, it pulls them in. And then the final rune is where you land, they get stunned. So it would be nice if you could, like, if you use that skill enough, you get an upgrade for it where you can have 2 runes.
You know, I could.
Would be nice.
That would be nice, or to at least expand on the exactly, to expand on the number of runes you could use. But like leap was one of those abilities that I used it early on when I got leap, but then I can't remember which I think I ended up switching it out for revenge because I just didn't find myself using leap that often. Like, it was more just taking up a slot at that point, you know. And that's the one thing that kind of gets to my other little pet peeve, is not being able to, and maybe I haven't figured it out yet, but in Diablo 2, I was able to hotkey my other talents and so on. So even though I only had my 4 out there, if I wanted to switch on my left click, like, like with my Amazon, I'd use jab often. But then let's say I wanted to use that, like, I want to switch real quick to my throwing one, I could just hit, Q or whatever on my keyboard, and it would switch what my main attack was.
The keybind.
They did not put that in Diablo 3. And
no.
Yeah, they didn't.
Not only did they not do that, and they, you know, made the hotkeys default for everyone.
Right.
But also, when your skills are on cooldown, can't switch. You gotta wait, and that's a pain in the butt when you use like one of your ultimate skills, like for the barbarian, which has a 2-minute cooldown. And you want to check on a new rune you got or something like that. Can't change it. Can't look at it.
Yep.
Well, the only time you don't get a cooldown is if you switch it in town. But the thing with that is you can't use the skill in town.
Yeah.
The skills, it's kind of funny. Running around shouting at villagers and stuff. I know that's really childish, but I like doing it nonetheless. But you can test all the skills there. Another thing.
Yeah, you can, but there's really no point for like damage based.
There's no point to, because you can't hurt anybody or anything. But at least you can take what it looks like, because they do change with the different rooms.
Yeah.
But another thing I would like to have seen is those 4 slots that you have. I think it would be cool if you could pick what skills you wanted to go there. Not like 1 slot for defensive, 1 slot for offensive.
Oh, you can.
You can. You can. It took me a while.
It's in the user interface. You need to enable. Let me go pull it up. Give me a second.
Yeah. There's a checkbox somewhere that lets you like basically freeform choose which powers you want to use in certain slots. You're still like for instance, if you go to the defensive slot and you don't want to use any of those defensive powers, then like up above you'll see a left and right arrow that lets you switch to like the next group of powers and whatever, and then you'll be able to then choose between those powers and skills.
I have like 1 for leap and 2 for stomp.
Right.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Oh.
You need to go to gameplay and uncheck. You need to check elective mode.
Yeah, it's elective mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that opens up a whole new door of possibilities.
It does, and it certainly helps. Like I know for a while that skill tree that had throw in it, like that was a skill, because like you get throw and then it's like there's nothing else there, and I'm like, I'm never using throw. So
I use the charge skill.
See, I never use charge. Like I never use throw, I never use charge. It's just, granted we obviously play 2 completely different barbarians. Now, do you wield a one-handed weapon and a shield, or a 2-handed weapon?
Dual wielding.
Okay, you dual wield as well. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But like, well, and it's interesting because, and this is something I want to note. First of all, don't go to the Blizzard forums because they're a mess. I can't find any useful chips there. But every single build I see there is for 2-handed weapons, and I'm like, why would you use a 2-handed weapon?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking of making a female barbarian that used cleave with 2-handed weapons. I do enjoy the fast-paced swinging of 2 weapons, and the DPS that from the weapons that I've seen, some of those one-handed weapons can do almost as much damage as the 2-handed weapons.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
2 weapons just like that. Why?
It's actually sometimes more damage than the 2-handers.
Right, because your attack speed's faster. So not only you might be doing 2 points less of damage per swing, but you're also swinging like 2 more times. You know, and then you put another, like, actually for the longest time I had found like a gold dagger, and it had like a plus 20 something to strength and a plus like something to dex, and increased my crit rate. So I must have used that dagger for easily 10 or 15 levels, even to the point where I was finding weapons that did more damage, but because it increased my attack speed and everything else, like that dagger was just so much better. And then the dagger itself is swinging like just like all the time. So it's, yeah, I mean, dual wielding, at least for the barbarian, just really seemed like the way to go. Although I can understand folks that use a shield, because from what I understand, when the difficulty gets harder, you definitely, the extra defenses are worthwhile.
Yeah, it's practically required for melee to have a shield, because the defensive stats that it basically just gives out innately will allow you to survive. As I said, I was a dual wielding monk until Act 2 or 3 of Hell.
Right.
Some of my shields then.
Just to keep this conversation moving along, we've kind of already gone over some of this stuff, but definitely Diablo 3 simplified some stuff about in the gameplay. There's no more identify or town portal scrolls. If you want to identify gold or higher level items, you just right click them and it takes like 2 seconds and it identifies it. Town portal is now just an ability that you get. I think it's after like level 6 or 7 that you end up getting it.
I think it's quest based.
Oh, is it quest based? Okay. All right. Yeah. And then potions. There's only one potion now, and that's the healing potion, and it levels up. So you get the major healing potion and the super healing potion. So there's no more mana healing potion. There's no more fatigue potions. There's no more fatigue at all.
Yeah.
So there's no.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
that's really like the fatigue mechanic, because I was like, I mean, really, you're trying to run away from the hordes of hell, and you're telling me you're tired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't have a problem with town portal being a skill. I mean, in Diablo 1, that's the way it was. You could get town portal scrolls and stuff like that, but everybody could learn the town portal spell. They took that out in Diablo 2.
Right.
But, like, particularly with gold in Diablo 3, which is really, really important, I think it's best that they did it that way, instead of having to buy town portal scrolls all the time. And the same thing with identifying.
But anyways, we'll move the conversation along. Let's get into some tips and tricks. We'll keep this brief, but anyone have any tips for crafting?
I'm a big fan of the crafting. Most of the gear that I have that either hasn't been given to me, I craft everything. I put a lot of effort into upgrading my blacksmith, particularly early on. I usually there are different books that you have to use for the smith depending on what difficulty you're on. And usually by Act 2, I'm done with what I can do on that difficulty setting for upgrading and stuff.
Right.
Crafting, I find, is really important. I don't really sell items all that much, so I'm always breaking down all the blue items and all the yellow items that I find that I'm not using.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've been playing as well. Although from what little I've seen online, basically everyone says don't bother crafting. It's expensive. You're better off using the auction house. So it's always been. So I kind of felt like, oh gosh, did I waste all this time crafting? You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna call BS on that simply because of the outrageous prices on the auction house.
Gotcha.
Well, if you're really lucky, from what it sounds like, DJ is really lucky. I'm not.
Yeah, see, I've had horrible luck.
Stuff, and all I get are intelligence-based gear. I'm like, would have been useful if I was playing my wizard now, wouldn't it?
Well, see, I know from that's why my my demon hunter's so twinked out, because like I have this like she has the excuse me, my chest is just full of plus dex, crit, attack speed, crossbows, boots, armor, like everything is just, it's just full of stuff
already ready and waiting for her.
Yeah, exactly. Like every level, like every time, like when I hit level 12, I just went over there, oh look, new boots, it's like awesome. It's like, oh, exactly. New arms,
That's why the crafting part is really important when you do your first character and you're leveling up, to get him as high as you can. And I know that it can get expensive, and in the beginning finding some of those tomes and pages and stuff is really hard.
Right.
But it will set you up to be self-sufficient, particularly if you spend the time breaking down all of the gear that you find, all of the new characters that you have. Like, I started playing a monk, and I got him to, like, 10 or 12 or something like that. And I didn't really have to buy anything. I crafted everything. I had the money. I had the stuff in the stash.
Yeah.
So, and he was tricked out. So my biggest tip would be make sure to get the smith up as high as you can, because that's where you're also going to get some of the best items. He can craft legendary items if you find the recipe. He crafts set items if you find the recipe, which are going to be very hard to find, and you probably end up sometimes farming the same gear while you're trying to farm for those recipes. But he does make the best stuff in the game. And even though it's a gamble, your odds of getting greater gear, because when you make with the smith, it's random properties. odds there of finding something you need are greater than having to go out there and farm, not knowing what you get. At least with the smith, you can build a specific piece of armor or a specific weapon.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how about the auction house? Joseph, you appear to be using that at least a little bit more. So
Yeah. Well, depending on what you're looking for, and because of it's not user friendliness, it's somewhat of an intimidating to be using the auction house to gear yourself up constantly. But as time goes by and you're finding yourself having a harder time and not getting whatever gear you want from the crafting portion of the game, the auction house is there, and they actually built the difficulty for Hell and Inferno around the accessibility of the auction house.
Okay.
So if you find yourself banging yourself in the head on a wall or whatever, it might be time for you to take a visit at the auction house. The tips in the auction house is making sure you define what you're looking for gear. Because if you're just looking like one-handed weapons, it's gonna dump God knows how many items that are way overpriced.
Yeah.
You have to set the specific what you want, how much you want to pay for, which stats you are looking for. After that, it becomes so much smoother when you're trying to upgrade your gear.
Yeah. Yeah. And from what little I've explored of it, it definitely seems like it helps going into it knowing what it is you want. So, like, if you know you want a sword or a one-handed weapon that adds to your crit rate and is going to only cost you 10 grand, then that's, you definitely have to set those parameters first. And then, and then refine your search from there. But yeah, it really seems like you really got to break into it early and work from there.
Yep.
Yeah. Any useful tips you guys can think of for particular classes that you've played? I know myself, I certainly enjoy playing my Stundarian, as I like to call him. Because just, and I know I've already mentioned this a couple times, but just being able to get in there and bash away and constantly stun lock enemies, even groups of enemies, is definitely been useful, and then whirlwind through them. I like I said, I very rarely died, and when I did, it was because I wasn't paying attention to my cooldowns or like where I was in the room. It was purely, I can see most of the times when I died, it was something I did or I should have planned ahead for.
Yep. Well, speaking from like almost near end game content, because I'm in Inferno. Some tactics that you develop or habits that you develop early on will definitely not work in Inferno or in the later acts of Hell.
In other words, don't get too attached to stunning people.
Well, stunning is a viable tactic, but the chances of stunning stuff goes lower because of their defensive capabilities as you go up through the
tiers,
range, because they have higher resistances.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure if it'll work as you go on, but you, as I said, you need to start avoiding stuff.
Right.
If you have better gear or you outgear the level where you're dealing with, which I actually did when I help people out, I stand in stuff. That's a big no-no when you're in Inferno. You can't stand in stuff.
Yeah.
You need to avoid everything you can avoid because the damage they have outgoing is just ridiculous.
Yeah. That's actually something I learned with my Barbarian. My biggest issues up until I got my last passive slot, which was to resist like 20% of all elemental damage, was any enemy with some sort of ranged elemental type attack, or any enemy that can put down like a cloud of like poison or something like that. Like that would decimate my health in no time. So
yeah, plagued, arcane enchanted, molten, and jailer. Actually, if you find jailer with either of the three that I mentioned, you need to use your cooldown that breaks you out of it and just
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, I know, but it's just sometimes it's cheesy.
Yeah.
The abilities of the opponents, and I'm like, I've dealt with invulnerable minion abilities and invulnerable minions with Plague or Jailer and Arcane Enchanted. It's just they're just punishing you.
Oh boy.
Like, why? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to you?
And and Cory, any tips you can think of?
A couple of tips that I would have in terms of playing your characters. The normal act isn't very difficult, whether you're a newcomer or an experienced veteran. So go ahead and feel free to experiment, try out different weapons, try out different combinations of skills and stuff like that. And, that's the real time where you would want to figure out how you want to play your character. Because, I mean, I haven't played Hell yet. Certainly haven't played Inferno yet. But I know on Nightmare, I started experimenting a little bit, and I started dying more often because I just wasn't used to that play style.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's just really important to, mess around and figure out what you like, what you don't like, what kind of weapons you want to use. And then, once you figure that out and you have your play style, it'll really help you out a lot.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And any final thoughts you have on Diablo 3? Joseph, we'll start with you.
Oh, well, it's a very nice game to you play with when you're hanging out with other people.
Uh-huh.
And it actually will help you play more if you do strategic planning. So in the end, playing with like a third-party chat software will actually help you in the long run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't really like typing that much when you're trying to kill stuff that are milling about you. So
Yeah.
That's the only tip I can give.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yes, exactly. Definitely get a third-party chat.
Chat.
I know a lot of folks here are using HTL. We've been using Dolby Accent for our third-party chat stuff, but certainly TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, heck, even Skype if you have to. Like,
Yeah.
use something.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah. And Cory, yourself.
Just that I thought this is a really great game. It's certainly much more simple than Diablo 2. So for people who felt a little intimidated by how complicated Diablo 2 is, Diablo 3 is not like that. So feel free to try it out. Everybody who gets the game gets like 3 cards to let people try the game out. So if you know somebody, go ahead and try it out. And I really enjoy this game. I enjoy playing it with other people, and that's the real kicker there. It's just so much fun to play with other people. So I hope to see both of you and as many other people from HTL playing.
Yeah. And just for myself, a couple little last minute notes. I enjoy the story. I really can't wait to see what more they can add via DLC. Mostly a casual player who enjoys story elements and so on. So I'm looking forward to that portion. From what little multiplayer I've done, it's definitely a game where, especially if you can get together with folks that you know or folks that you respect and enjoy, playing with. I would never open my game up to the public, but I mean, if you're playing with people you know, it definitely becomes a fun, fast-paced game. It's enjoyable on various levels. It's got a couple minor knocks, like I said, when it comes to the whole DRM and lag and so on, but they kind of fall to the wayside once you get into it because you're just having so much fun just bashing monsters over the head. One last.
I actually end up spending hours on and without even realizing it. I'm like, oh wait, what? That's how long I've been playing already.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This game is it's just like Diablo 2 was. It's just as addicting. I mean, everybody likes hitting a piñata. That's just how it works. Like, you've never seen anyone hit a piñata with a frown on their face. It's the same thing with Diablo. You hit the monster, candy comes out. And lastly, though, the one thing I will say is, as someone who's played Torchlight and seeing how things went with Diablo 2, I actually kind of can't wait for Diablo 3. I kind of can't wait for Torchlight 2
Torchlight 2.
to
Yeah,
see how
same.
to see what to see what changes and innovations they make, because I definitely think you're going to see a real challenger come into this arena of this point and click dungeon delving kind of game. So
Yeah. It would be a nice thing to see competition, to see if they're gonna ramp each other's games up.
absolutely, and I hope I honestly hope that that's what happens. Not to knock against Diablo 3, but it's obvious to me that some stuff was not necessarily unfinished, but just kind of left out, or stuff they could have expanded on. And I hope that having real competition is going to make them want to put that stuff in, you know.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, across the board, the game's an excellent, fun game. So, I hope you folks go out there and enjoy it and play it. Cory and Joseph, thank you very much for joining me tonight on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And and I hope you'll be playing with you guys soon.
Sure.
All right, guys, have a good night.